Okay, as I discussed in my previous video, today we're gonna start the actual simulation of a ball or the projectile impacting a surface body. And, for, and for us to begin simulation, we need to model the parts. In this case, I'm going to use a rectangular shape of a shell that is 200 by 200 with a zero thickness, but I will illustrate how to assign a thickness to a plate. Then I will use a solid body that is rigid in nature. You go to mesh, select shape measure. We usually have about 8 types of shape measure. And since I'll use a rectangular shape, I just need 4 end shell. 4 end shell allows you to provide only 4 values for the 4 corners for you to form a rectangle. The first thing I need, since my rectangular dimensions will be 200 by 200 by 0, because the shell element, I will use 100, 100, 0 for the P1. P2, I go negative 100 on x-axis, then 100 on y-axis, 0 at z-axis, then I go negative both, then 0. We don't have any value for the shell on z-axis. We need a negative 100 here and 0 here. This section is where you define the number of mesh elements. Remember, we are using a mesh, forming a shape of the mesh. We have to provide how many elements of the mesh will be made. We are going to use 100 on x-axis and 100 on y-axis to have a uniform mesh. You can still name your part. I'll call it a plate shell. Like that, you can create. You can see the plate is formed. I can zoom out, zoom in, then done. If you want to see the mesh, these are the mesh we defined 100 by 100. These points, these corner points, this point, this point, this point, this point, these are the points we defined by P1, P2, P3, P4. Next step is for you to model a solid body for the ball. You go back to mesh shape. For now, we need a sphere that is solid. You can now maybe you can select isometric for now. I need a ball of radius 15. Let's see what happens. You can see what happens. A ball that intersects the shell element is formed with a radius of 15. If you change this value to 20, this becomes bigger. I want to use 15. This is the density of the mesh. If I put 10, let's see what happens. Becomes more concentrated. For us to avoid this interaction whereby the ball is interfering with our plate, you put a value on z-axis, maybe of 40. You can see now we have some distance from the center to the shell. We have about 40. Then say done. That's how you create parts. In my next video, I will illustrate how to create and assign materials to these parts. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and share.